Hi, I'm Tony Nichols, and welcome to Chamber Chat. Hi, welcome to Chamber Chat, a program put together by the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce for the sole purpose of keeping you informed on what's going on in your community and in your chamber. Joining us today is Kevin Wright, the Wicomico County Fire Marshal, and we had to invite Kevin in because we understand that Chamber Chat is getting so hot in the community that we may need some containment. So Kevin, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hope you bring your expertise with you because we may need
cool
it.
things off a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's start out with, everyone has heard about the fire marshal, whether it's good or bad.
Sure.
Can you start with a day in the life of Kevin Wright, the Wicomico County Fire Marshal?
Sure. We are, it's maybe sometimes easier to explain what we don't do. The state fire marshals have a presence in the area. They handle all of the fire investigations, explosive investigations, where I'm on this side of the fire, so to speak, before prevention, code enforcement. Our job is sort of two halves. It's the commercial construction that you see, permitting and inspections. If this building was built today, I'd be involved from plan review to the final CO was issued to occupy the building. But the other half, where they don't really see us a lot, is the maintenance type stuff, going out to festivals, making sure exits aren't blocked, nightclubs, hanging out with the police, doing bar checks, making sure they're not over-occupied in wee hours of the morning.
So I never would have thought. I never would have thought that I would expect to see the police department there. But I would have never thought that there might be a presence every now and then from the fire
and it mostly has to do with maximum capacity.
Sure.
You know, if you owned a bar or restauant, your capacity would be 150, and it's your job to make sure it stays there. Occasionally, I have to be the bad guy and go in and you need to get some folks out of here. You're a little over-occupied and exits are locked or blocked or whatever, something like that. And then retail inspections is a good thing. You know, in the holidays, you know, busy in stores, making sure that people have the last thing on their mind is, are my exits cleared?
That's right.
And so it takes people like me to come in and say, hey, move stuff out of the way. You never know when exits will be used. So it's not a normal same thing every day type of job. It's the unexpected. I could get a phone call probably while I'm sitting here talking to you. Hey, I need you to stop by here and take a look at this, and I'll go do it. So often my day timer, my calendar on my phone is very flexible. It has to be very fluid.
Fluid, yeah. That was the word I was going to use. Yeah.
And very fluid to adjust to the many things, because we respond to complaints in the middle of the night. You know, or maybe a fire department responds to a place that's got a sprinkler system in it, and they have to take it out of service. So I have to come up and do the code stuff. Those guys handle all, you know, the typical first responder issues, where it's my job to handle the code side and make sure things are appropriate.
Well, that was a very broad stroke. There's a lot of things in there, but in every interaction, you're interacting with the community, whether it be the business community or whether the residential community. And I know sometimes you're the hero. And probably sometimes you're the guy that...
The villain.
The villain. Yeah, a good word,
sure.
the villain. So how is that relationship with the community?
It's something that when I took over the office 3 years ago, that was very important to me. Having spent time in the private sector and knowing what the image that fire marshals, fire inspectors have is sort of this block of this wall that you have to get through. We walk in the door, okay, what's wrong now? How much money are you going to cost me? It was really important to me to have that paradigm shift where assumptions were flipped, and we're here to come alongside. There's going to be times where I have to make you spend money because you haven't maintained something properly, but it's very important to make sure I don't get lumped in with the folks at the DMV. You know what I mean? Or it's just kind of, I'm there to help you. I have sold and suggested more code requirements than I've enforced. You know what I mean? And so it's not about, I show up and you've got to do these things and call me when it's fixed and I leave and just kind of throw the code book at people. It's just more of a suggestive, give the intent of why the code says that. And most of the time, I don't even have to bark, let alone bite, when it comes to code enforcement, because they sort of see where I'm at. Okay, yeah, I get it. Makes sense. That's fair. You got a job to do, and I understand. And
I think in general, people want to do the right thing. They want to be safe and make sure the people or the families are safe.
And sometimes it's the last thing on their mind is whether or not they've got exits blocked or their fire alarms or fire sprinklers have been tested like they should be. So it takes sort of that fresh eyes to walk into a building and look for those type of things.
Right.
You know.
So that's a unique approach, rather than saying I have a job to do and I'm going to do that job,
Sure.
and I'm going to make you safe whether you want to be safe or not. To having that creative approach that you're there to assist and to inform. So is there a master plan? Is there a vision that, I mean, somewhere you want to get to that maybe we aren't there yet?
And that's, I think the end goal is, and I shared yesterday when I spoke to the chamber at their Lunch and Learn that I have a $6 Million Man principle, the show that was in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
And we can make him build him faster, bigger, stronger. And that principle is essentially there's always a better way. And, you know, we can do it better. Even what's good, we can make it better. And that's just something that's ingrained in my thought process from the way we deal with people, the way we deal with the government. But just to get to the point where they don't see us as a hurdle, a stumbling block, as just this negative, the DMV type thing that they've got to deal with, where it's not unpleasant to deal with us. You know, yeah, there are certain black and white issues that I will not budge on, but let me explain some of those better. And I just have found the response from the development community, specifically architects, contractors, engineers, property managers, and owners, where in the past 3 years they will seek me out, where before I had to go chase them down. Gotcha. And so that's sort of the end goal, was just to be a partner, another cog in the wheel in the development process in the county, and to sort of shift that, because the bad image of fire marshals is sort of a nationwide thing. We're just the guys that come in and bully you around, and I just wasn't happy with that. And so that's kind of where we're going.
All right, I'm going to throw you a softball.
Okay.
Why is fire code enforcement good? I mean, and get into a little bit of how you enforce it and how people view it.
It's probably the best way to describe that is what happens when fire code enforcement doesn't exist. It's my job to plan for the worst and hope for the best, to walk into a place like this studio and look at things that what can go wrong. So if I'm not out there, our office is not out there with a constant presence, restaurants, nightclubs, apartment complexes, hotels, making sure that all these codes are compliant. The devastating effect on the community, I referred yesterday to the Station nightclub fire that happened up in Rhode Island 11 years ago, where a business closes down, people in this fire died, lawsuits out the wazoo, and there were some fire code enforcement issues on the front of that. May not have prevented the fire, but it may have prevented the catastrophe side of it. So it's trying to prevent, we don't want to be a news story. You know, I check the papers, the blogs, whatever, every morning to say what happened last night. What could I have done to prevent that if it, you know, when it relates to fire code stuff?
Right.
So,
talking about new fire codes, I think there are some new sprinkler regulations that are coming into play.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
Hot topic. Pun intended.
Yeah, yes, pun very much intended. Yeah. My job when it comes to, let me back up. The state of Maryland, you know, made it a mandate that all local jurisdictions like Wicomico, Salisbury, Fruitland, and Delmar have to adopt the current residential building code. And in that code is the requirement to install residential sprinklers. And so there are debates back and forth, yay or nay, of the worth of them. And I guess my job is, because I work for administration, the previous exec, the new exec have made no secret that they don't really support them. So I can't speak against that, but my job is to educate and to tell you the benefits of, and that it's coming, you know. So January 1st this past year, the state enacted the latest code cycle, 2015 version of the residential building code, and that is the requirement for residential sprinklers. And so the local jurisdictions have 6 months to adopt that. So in a perfect world, come July 1st, statewide, every house that's built will be fully sprinklered. And there are lots of positives for that.
Sure.
My job really isn't to convince you why you need them, but to just talk about, I'm the educator, and then I have to enforce dealing with sprinkler contractors when they put it in. So it'll be a level playing field across the state. Maryland is on the forefront of any kind of fire code enforcement, just because you've got the University of Maryland that's got a fire protection engineering program. And so we're kind of one of the 3 or 4 states nationwide that is really on the cutting edge of new requirements and new standards, you know. Well,
I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks and months.
Sure.
But Kevin, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Keep your eye on us because we are hot.
All right,
And,
I'll make sure I send some folks over here.
All right.
Yeah.
Kevin Wright, thanks for joining
All
us.
right, thank you. Yeah.
We'd like to give you the opportunity now to take a look at the upcoming events with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Chamber Chat right here on Pack 14. Joining us now is Beth Ohlsson. And Beth is with SSACC. Now we all know what SACC stands for, the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. So tell us what SSACC stands for.
It stands for the Salisbury Substance Abuse Community Center.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for joining us at on Chamber Chat. Now tell us what the Salisbury Substance Abuse Center is about.
The Salisbury Substance Abuse Community Center is a small nonprofit that provides space for 12-step meetings. What that means is people who are in the recovery process from drug and alcohol addiction come to these 12-step meetings to learn how to live without drugs or alcohol.
Okay, gotcha. I would imagine that that is very popular, unfortunately a very popular program that many people participate in.
Yes, 1,000 times a week someone crosses our threshold to attend a meeting.
1,000 times a week?
Yeah, roughly 50,000 times a year. I can't say it's 50,000 people because someone might go to a meeting every day, they might go to 2.
That's
but
a staggering statistic.
It is. But what's more staggering is that 10% of any area, the population of any area, is addicted to some sort of substance or behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an epidemic.
That's probably a little known fact by most people in Wicomico County and the surrounding areas. How long have you guys been around? When were you founded?
It was an idea in 1987. And what happened in 1987 was a number of recovering people came together to create what was then called the 12 Steps Club.
Okay.
The SAC Center actually opened its doors in 1991, and we've been around for the last 24 years. This is our 3rd location.
Wow. So you talked earlier about a 12-step process, 12-step program. You have a 12-step fellowship, I understand?
They're called fellowships,
okay.
And there are quite a few of them. The original 12-step fellowship was Alcoholics Anonymous,
all right.
And that was started in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
About 20 years later, Narcotics Anonymous was started with the blessing and help of Alcoholics Anonymous. The people addicted to drugs felt like they had some issues that weren't being addressed in AA, so they wanted NA. Mm-hmm. Since then, there have been tons of programs that have been grandchildren of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's Overeaters Anonymous, there's Gamblers Anonymous, there's Chemical Dependency Anonymous, there's a lot.
How many do you guys run in your program?
We have 35 meetings a week.
Wow.
And we don't run those. Each group runs itself.
Has its own facilitator.
Has its, yes. Mm-hmm. And we provide the space and the staff to keep the building open and available for the recovery process.
Well, as many people as you're saying cross that threshold a week. Mm-hmm. How does somebody join, or do you join, or do you just show up? How do you get involved?
You show up.
If you
you show up.
Okay.
There are no dues or fees. There are no applications, registrations. It's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. What goes on in that room is private and nobody else's business.
Vegas.
A little bit better than Vegas.
I would agree. Same concept though. What happens there stays there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what are the differences? Let me ask you if I could. What are the, because it seems like there could be a very big redundancy if there are multiple 12-step programs. What are the differences, if you could speak to that, in one versus the other?
Well, the difference is whatever the addiction is. It could be a behavior, it could be a substance, And there's a really big difference between Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, because alcohol is legal.
Right.
You know, and so that creates a division in the kinds of issues that people need to deal with. And in a 12-step meeting, what you learn to do is how to live without benefit of drugs or alcohol. So Gamblers Anonymous would address gambling addiction.
Gotcha.
And I have a suspicion that the more legal gambling becomes, the more problem gamblers we will see.
I would agree with that.
You know, Overeaters Anonymous addresses food as an addiction. And with the obesity problem in this country, that fellowship will grow. We don't have an Overeaters Anonymous chapter at SAC Center, but I suspect we will have one soon. The Chemical Dependence Anonymous is a fellowship that doesn't really care whether it was an alcohol or a drug or whatever it was, you know, just being there. And they all use the same 12 steps.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot if I can.
Okay.
If you talk about how prevalent it is, and I think everyone listening and watching will agree, do you have any statistics that you could share in terms of the prevalence of drug and alcohol abuse or chemical dependency, or
how it breaks out?
Sure, yes.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I wish I did.
The idea of just in what we can see in the community is it's rampant.
Yes, especially the heroin problem.
Well, you stole my thunder. I was going to ask how much of what you're seeing has direct ties to the heroin issue that we have in the area.
I can simply say there are twice as many Narcotics Anonymous meetings at the SAC Center as there are Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm sorry I can't talk this morning.
Yeah. Have you heard me talk?
And I think that bears witness
Right.
to the prevalence of the problem. And one of the things about that is so many people get caught because of pain management. And it's really tragic when those people who are simply doing what the doctor said, you know, for whatever reason, cross that threshold and it becomes an addiction. It's really sad, and it tears families and communities apart.
Sure it does. If there's no cost to the participants, the people that walk across that threshold, how do you get funding? Where's your funding come from?
That's a really good question. The United Way is our biggest financial supporter, and the Community Foundation is right behind them, and what they fund are specific needs that we have.
Okay.
They recently gave us a grant to buy computers.
Okay.
We have some corporate sponsors. We've worked very hard in this last year to get some corporate sponsors. Purdue, Hazel Foundation, Henson Foundation, First Shore Federal are among our, and PRMC are among our corporate supporters. We have individual donors. We do a mail campaign twice a year. And then the people who actually use the facility, they pass the basket and we get a percentage of that as rent. That only covers about 10% of the cost of doing business.
Wow. So if there were, what are things that on a day-to-day basis, the blocking and tackling just to keep the doors open, what are things that the SAC Center might need?
We need chairs.
Chairs, okay. I mean, that's good.
We need chairs.
Be specific that way.
50,000 times a year, somebody's sitting in a chair.
Right.
I don't think they're built for that kind of use and abuse. We'd love to have the building painted. We would. We always need money. You know, utilities are expensive and rent is expensive for as many square feet as we have. But what we really need is to have people shift their attitude towards recovering people. You know, addicts don't choose to be addicts. Right. And when they try to get clean and sober, there's a learning curve to living like a clean and sober person, and I would love to see more tolerance of that.
Do you have a website or something that you could give us that people could log in and check that out and see how they could give?
Yes. The website is ssacc.org, and there is a pledge form and a donation form on the website, and we would love to hear from you.
Beth Ohlsson, we're glad we heard from you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to give you another opportunity now to take a look at the upcoming events with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Chamber Chat right here on PAC 14. Joining us now is no stranger to the program now. I guess you're a veteran of Chamber Chat now. Jackie Gast with Eastern Shore Business Leadership Network. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're here to talk about an event that's gaining momentum over the last couple of years in the area. Tell us what that is.
It's Ability Awareness Day, formerly known as the Able to Work community event at the zoo. And we're in our 6th year.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
It's gaining momentum,
yeah. So it's an awareness event to raise awareness that people with disabilities can and want to work and give back to their community.
Very good. Now, this is the 6th year. You've actually, in the last couple of years, morphed just a little bit, and you've partnered with a sister event, I'll call it. And really have come together to form a pretty cool event where you're creating awareness on two fronts.
Yes, yes, and that's exciting because even though the ESBLN, Eastern Shore Business Leadership Network, is about helping people become employed, it's one of my personal pet peeves, so it fits great for me, about litter and anti-litter campaign, really. So Stash Your Trash came from the beautification committee at the Salisbury Chamber, which the ESBLN is part of. And so it was a perfect match because they always wanted to do a cleanup in the spring, and we always have done our cleanup in the spring, and because they're both chamber events, we thought, well, why don't we just make the awareness even larger and combine efforts? So yes, we had a good group. We work primarily at the zoo, and then the chamber reaches out to the citywide in various areas in the city, and then we end up at the zoo and have lunch and a little ceremony. And
well, I want to go back to Ability Awareness Day. Talk a little more about what the goal of that is. I know you spoke briefly about helping to, and I hate to use the words, but prove once again that people that may have a disability can function fine in the workplace in many different capacities. But is that really the goal, once again, to just one more time, here it is, and these people are just as viable as anyone else as far as candidates are concerned?
I appreciate you saying it that way, and you just said it. So yes, that's what we want. It's really it is a business. The Eastern Shore Business Leadership Network is a business-to-business network. So what we do is we have employers sponsor teams, and they come out and they work side by side with people first, and people with disabilities, and then there's a lot of stigma attached with the word disability. So they're just people. Everybody's just people. We all have our different disabilities, but they're just people, and they want to work. And so what we're trying to do is get rid of that stigma a little bit. So some of the folks who come out look a little different, walk a little different, act a little different, but boy, they are hard workers.
All of those things could be said about me.
And they could be said about me. Because we all, honestly, that's absolutely true. People without different disabilities act a little different, walk a little different, look a little different.
And some of us talk a little different.
Yes, we do. Yes, you do. Oh, me too. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So over the years, are there any things that you can point to as specific outcomes of Ability Awareness Day that you would say, you see, this is what we told you?
Well, yes, actually, first and foremost, we do see that. We get the verbal feedback the day of the event. So we all finish our cleanup. It's really mulching, raking, a lot of you know, beautifying the zoo really for Earth Day. But and we all come back and have lunch together, and everybody's talking, everybody's happy, and they do say, boy, this particular person really worked really hard, and this, and we had one year where one of the companies said, you know, they did a really good job with this landscaping. I'm going to give them a call and see if we can have them come out and clean up our corporate, you know, surroundings, facility, you know, and do some of that work for us. We've also had some placements come from it, which is pretty good, which is pretty cool. But we're going to be a little more formalized this year. We're going to have a survey afterwards, which we have done in the past, but haven't been consistent. So we're gonna really hit that hard this year.
So you have teams that go out. Is that correct? And in these teams, what's the chemical makeup of these teams?
Well, they're preformed teams, so the public can't just sign up for the zoo event. It is a sponsored event, and you have to be invited to be a part of that. But we want everyone to come out and cheer us on and help us and you know, be aware of what we're doing. But the makeup of the teams is employers, about 4 or 5 employer volunteers. Work with 4 or 5 people with disabilities, which can be from an agency, can be from the school system. We've had a lot of students come out in the past. We have, and they work side by side, so they're integrated teams, you might say. And a lot of times people don't know who have the disabilities. There's a lot of hidden disabilities, and we don't tell them. So.
Do you have as many teams as you need or want, or do you see it getting bigger or turning into a week rather than a day? I mean, what does that look like?
We do the morning. It's always a morning, Saturday morning, which is April 11th. And it's been at capacity every single year.
Really?
This year it is. And they're volunteers. Nobody's being paid to come out there. So it's really awesome. And of course the zoo is a great place.
Yeah, it really is a great place.
Yeah, and what's really neat this year, they have increased the number of people that we're able to bring out. So we're going to have a record number this year, I know it. So we're excited about that.
Wow, and so there will be more teams even? Or
more teams, yep. We're bringing, we are going to bring a few more new teams in.
So the event in and of itself is growing, not just the awareness of it, but the event in and of itself is growing as well.
Yes, yep. So that's pretty cool.
All signs of a healthy event.
Oh, definitely, yeah, it's fun.
Well, listen, where can we find out more information, maybe for next year? Because it sounds like it's popular enough where you can't get in this year, or if you do have some positions available this year, where can we find out the information? You can call the chamber at the chamber website will be posted after this, and also it's on the ESBLN website, esbln.org. On the events page, you'll get more information there, and you'll see some past photos. But this year, and you can sign up. People are welcome to sign up for the Stash Your Trash cleanup. So if we and you can also ask us about the zoo event. If you're an employer or when you're interested in coming out and helping, we're still taking more employer sponsorships, which includes the sponsorship for the folks with disabilities. So we're still in the registration phase for that right now. And if we have too many, if we hit capacity, then we'll still keep you. We don't turn volunteers away. We're working together with Stash Your Trash. And again, it's a whole chamber event. And so yes, please give us a call and we'll get you out working that day. And it's just so much fun. The reason it's so great and successful, I mean, is because people want to come back every year because they just say it's such. I had somebody say yesterday, it's a feel-good event. Right. Awesome. Well, Jackie Gast, we certainly appreciate what you do for the community, what you do for the work that you do to try to find work for people that might need help. So that's very much appreciated. Thanks for coming on Chamber Chat and telling us. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And just one last message, employers, just open up those doors and think about people with disabilities as a recruitment pool of labor for you. Thank you so much. Well, I can't think of a better way to end this session of Chamber Chat. As always, if you've missed any portion of this program or previous programs, you can visit PAC 14's website and utilize their on-demand feature, or you can visit the Chamber website as well. That's all the time we have for this edition of Chamber Chat. My name's Tony Nichols, encouraging you to make a difference.